Speedway Report is produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for Racers Reunion Radio. Well, milestone wins got chalked up in NASCAR and USAC. The Bowman Gray Stadium Modifieds ran a night for the ages, and well, the 58th annual Knoxville Nationals. What more do I really need to say? That's enough of a tagline right there. We've got all this and more coming up. Welcome to Speedway Report for Monday, August 13th. Lucky 13th, 2018. From the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina, I'm Patrick Reynolds, and thank you for tuning in to the fastest half hour in racing. Let's take a trip around the Speedway Report Victory Lane lap. Tell you who won what over this busy August weekend as we're in the dog days of summer. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Tour were in the Irish Hills of Michigan on the high banks of the 2-mile speedway. Kevin Harvick won for the 44th time in his career. That ties NASCAR Hall of Famer Bill Elliott on the all-time Cup win list. For 2018, that is win number 7 for Harvick, as he riding pretty strong through the season. The Xfinity cars are on the road course in mid-Ohio. Justin Allgaier was your winner on Saturday afternoon. And earlier in the day, the trucks had the undercard race at Michigan. Fantastic event. Lots of passing, lots of action. Great finish. Brett Moffitt by a whisker over Johnny Sauter at the checkered flag to get the win. NASCAR's Whelen Modified Tour was in action all the way back last Wednesday at Thompson, Connecticut with a Bud 150. Justin Bonsignor sat in victory lane at the end of the night. Tip of the hat to the Thompson Speedway and NASCAR management as they had storms rolling through the area last Wednesday. Did a nice job, kept the show going along, got a Wednesday night tour race in just fine. NASCAR's K&N Pro Series West Tour raced in Evergreen, Washington over the weekend. Derek Thorne took the checkered flag. Good dude. Met him when he was out here in Charlotte, North Carolina several years ago. Former guest on this show as well. A nice West Coast and East Coaster could tweet back and forth, set up an interview and a meeting over the internet. Good deal. I loved meeting him. Good guy. Glad to see him back in victory lane. Hopping over to the dirt. Yes, the dirt. We doled out a lot of money this weekend on dirt. Lucas Oil Late Models raced in Union, Kentucky. They made up some rainouts earlier in the year as well as the big North-South 100 weekend. Let's go back to last Wednesday. Hudson O'Neill took the checkered flag there, the son of Real Deal Don. On Thursday night, for the preliminary night for the North-South, that was taken by Tim McCready. Saturday night's big 100-lapper won by Ricky Weiss. Checkered flag and a nice check for $50,000. But you want to talk money on dirt? Let's head to the Knoxville Nationals for the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars. Wednesday night's preliminary event taken by Greg Hodnett. Thursday night's race taken by Brad Sweet. Friday night's qualifier by Logan Schuchart. And Saturday night's big 50-lap, $150,000 first place prize. Brad Sweet took the sweep on Thursday and Saturday. USAC Silver Crown raced in Salem, Indiana, the high bank paved track. Cody Swanson won. And this great win for him, he surpassed Jack Hewitt on the all-time Silver Crown Series win leader list. Jack Hewitt? Yeah, you do something a little bigger than Jack Hewitt does. That's pretty spot-on Hall of Fame material right there. Also on the dirt, Grandview, Pennsylvania intended to give out $10,000 to the winner of Saturday night's Forrest Rogers Memorial. They were rained out. They will have to try again this Saturday night. Down here closer to us in South Boston, Virginia, the Pass Super Late Models raced, and Bubba Pollard, big Super Late Model star, wound up in victory lane. And now this race in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the stats on this one are through the roof with the amount of laps in time that has elapsed in this deal. At Bowman Gray Stadium, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Tim Brown, big winner, big champion at the stadium already, he won both halves of the twin 50-lap feature race. Mods ran twin 50s. He won them both. What's the big deal, you may ask? Well, in the history of the Bowman Gray Stadium, in 70 years, that is the first time that has ever been done in the NASCAR Modifieds. One driver sweeps twin 50-lap features on the same night. 70 years, never been done. Tim Brown, congratulations. That's if you've ever been to the stadium and know how hard it is to race there, to pass there, to win one race and then invert and get the other, that's yeoman's work there. Definitely a race for the ages around the football field at Bowman Gray Stadium. Where do we begin this week through the Victory Lane Lap? I want to talk about someone that I kind of glossed over last week. Got him near the end of the show. Deserves more time than what I gave him. And that's the passing of Charlotte Observer writer Tom Higgins. He had been retired for quite a while. Occasionally did some writing here and there, but for years he was the beat writer for the Charlotte Observer on, what was NASCAR Grand National, then NASCAR Winston Cup, and through Nextel and Sprint and all that good stuff. Tom Higgins was one of the guys. He was a writer for the Charlotte Observer. And as I was growing up, I knew of Higgins' work. When I was a kid, no such thing as the internet, so it's not like I could pull up things. But when I started getting trade papers, so many of the writers that covered the Grand National circuit would reference Higgins. His work was carried in some of the trade papers. They would, there were pieces and quotes and things. So I was well aware of who Tom was. And as time passed, I got older, started being able to read the Charlotte Observer from a distance. You realized what he meant and who he was as a writer. Fantastic storyteller. Captured the essence of an interview or a race or an event like very few ever could. But it wrote tremendously covering NASCAR. Passed away a few weeks ago. He'd been ill for a while. And just a little bit before his 81st birthday. We had a celebration of life for him at the NASCAR Hall of Fame this past weekend. I did not make it. I missed it. I regret that. But sometimes life takes you in a different direction. But my thoughts and prayers and best wishes are with everyone, with family and friends of Tom Higgins. And personally for me, when I started getting into the journalism field, I had a chance to meet Tom Higgins and see the awards he's won, the accolades he's earned, the relationships he's built with other writers. As I became somewhat of a rookie journalist in broadcasting, radio, television, writing, and learned more about and got a chance to meet Tom Higgins and then see him again till he recognized me. And we started chatting as friends. And it turns out, as time went on, we got to know each other better. He didn't live all that far from me. So Tom Higgins had a big meaning for me, and I want to compare it to just the NASCAR world in general. As I grew up in Connecticut, and the Winston Cup Series was almost something magical in a faraway magical land that was on my television every Sunday. When I grew up in the days of Richard Petty, Bobby Allison, Cale Yarborough, David Pearson. Darrell Waltrip was this young kid on the block. These were my formative years in auto racing, and Higgins wrote about it and covered it. And it was still, as I got older and began to travel and explore relocation to the Charlotte area for a career, it became really neat that I could reach out and touch the sport and really interact and be part of it. It wasn't this magical fairyland anymore. It was real. And the people were real, including Petty, Pearson, Yarborough, Allison, Waltrip. I got to meet all of them, and they were there, and it was such a privilege and an honor. I'm going to put Tom Higgins' name on that list of folks. Wonderful guy that was in a part of a magical storytelling aspect that was so far away. Steve Wade was a good friend of his. I got the chance to meet Steve Wade. I got to know him a little bit, and so many other writers around that covered the sport for decades. And it's wonderful to meet these guys, these voices you hear on the radio, the folks you see on television, even the bylines, the authors that are part of the sport, the storytellers. These guys can capture this sport and tell you a story about it through their medium, and you think you were there. They're that good that they paint this wonderful picture. You're not at a race, but you feel like you were when you finish reading their story. And Tom Higgins is just a master at it, master storyteller, talented writer. We lost him, and the sport's worse off for him not being in it. And former beat writer for the Charlotte Observer so many years ago, I listened to his story the first time he ever went to Darlington to cover the Southern 500. Didn't know what he was getting into. Sat down low at the press box, where at the time they swapped the track now, so it's currently located in turn 3. Formerly, that was turn 1 before they swapped the ends of the track. And he looked at the writers that were there in the press box the first time he arrived with bandanas on and goggles, and he wondered what in the world he'd got himself into. Well, when the field roared by for the first time, there was nothing but chicken wire between the press box and the Speedway. And at Darlington, all that sand and grit and dust flying up in the press box, and Tom Higgins understood. Hopefully, I'm sure it is on tape or video somewhere of him telling this story, because my retelling of it does not do the story justice. But if you can, maybe search the internet and maybe there's a sit down with Tom. There's plenty of stories out there, interviews that he sat for in front of a camera and a microphone and retold. And if you can catch the one of him talking about the first time he had gone to Darlington to cover the race, not knowing a whole lot about auto racing in general at the time, it's priceless. It's worth your effort to go find the story. I'm sorry I won't hear it again in person, because I heard him tell it a few times, and there's just very few storytellers in the world of motorsports like Tom Higgins. So rest in peace, Pappy. I was privileged to know you and get to meet you and become friends with you. Jumping from NASCAR, let's talk about, to me, the big race of the weekend was the World of Outlaws and the Knoxville Nationals out in Iowa. Yes, not Tennessee. And I see how big this event has become, and it's been big for decades. It's been on my bucket list for decades, and unfortunately, as August of 2018 is here, it still remains on my bucket list. But I look at the Nationals and what this event is and how big it is, and it's been creative and turned into an event to go to, a destination. And it doesn't have anything to do with being there for several days or the money it pays out. Now, granted, those are factors which add to the cachet to it, but it's not the point. I think if you could reduce the purse for the Knoxville Nationals, it would still be that big of a deal. Not that they would, not that they're going to, but it's not the money first thing first that drives this thing. It's you've created an event, a tentpole, a championship run in the Knoxville Nationals. The location of the racetrack, the Hall of Fame there, the history behind the track, the facility, it's amazing. And this runs parallel to NASCAR Speed Weeks in Daytona. It is, if you want to make the comparison, the Knoxville Nationals is the Daytona 500 of World of Outlaw sprint cars. But as a former crew guy in the world of NASCARs, man, was Daytona Speed Weeks a headache and a pain. And if you talk to the World of Outlaw sprint guys, which I have, Knoxville Nationals can be a headache and a pain. I had one of them tell me off the record it's his least favorite week of the entire year. It sucked. But I understand the work effort that comes off, that they have to put into it in order for it to come off the event that is presented to the fans and to the public. I understand that with the Daytona 500 being part of it for so many years, and now I view the Knoxville Nationals in a similar light. Like, wow, how big is this? It's huge. It's bigger than the actual money that's put up. And I look at what it's become, what it's grown. The proof of the pudding in making it a destination event is the Chili Bowl that takes place in January in Oklahoma. Runs for an entire week as well, but it doesn't pay huge dollars to win, unlike Knoxville does. And it's just become that big of an event, which you can do without going broke and paying out a tremendous amount of money. And I wonder, the money helps, but I've whined about that on this show before, of whatever happened to my beloved pavement modifieds growing up in the Northeast. And there were so many wonderful races. The Thompson 300, the 250 doubleheaders at Martinsville, that 80-lap Spring Sizzler, the 200 at Oswego, and so many others throughout the year. Race of Champions still exists, but not anything like it used to be. And these events were just massive, and it wasn't always because of the dollars paid. Sure, the purses were healthy, but I think the event itself was created as a destination where nobody wanted to miss it. You had to be a part of it, both as a fan, a competitor. You just had to go. That was what had to happen is you had to be there. The Knoxville Nationals, you had to be there. Now, the pavement modifieds, I don't know of anything that sparkles like it used to do 30 years ago. Why are these events gone? Why do they not sparkle bigger, brighter, shinier? Why isn't, the Thompson 300 in its 45th year? Why is the Sizzler 200 laps paying half the purse that it used to? Why? Where's the Pentex 200 at Stafford? Where did this stuff go? I want some big event for the pavement modifieds to come back. The 150 at Bristol this week is a big deal, but I don't know if that halfway break is still there. Twin 75s really shallows it. I'm glad they did away with that at New Hampshire. They've got a 250 coming up there in September for the pavement mods. I'm still not sure of the format. I heard there's going to be some kind of a stoppage or a break, which to me takes away from it. There's a fuel break in the middle of the Knoxville Nationals for the 50 lapper. I believe that takes away from the Nationals as opposed to running an event straight through. I'd love to see a 40 lapper as opposed to a 50 lapper, or maybe put it back to 30. The Knoxville Nationals have been 30. 50 laps with a fuel break really doesn't trip my trigger like 30 laps straight through does. In any event, I grew up on pavement modifieds, and there was a lot of big, shiny, sparkly races throughout the calendar. And the Knoxville Nationals are part of the World of Outlaw Tour, the King's Royal. There's a lot of big events, the Summer Nationals and the U.S. Nationals at Williams Grove. There's a lot of big events, must-see, got-to-see events at the World of Outlaws. And my pavement modifieds don't necessarily have those. You could count New Hampshire, maybe. It is a big deal. I think it's big out of the context that it has. I don't know how big it is compared to what we used to see, with the pavement modifieds being a support class in a cup weekend where I used to grow up. The modifieds were the featured class. They weren't supporting anybody or anything. I'd like to see them put back on the front burner, which I'm anxious to see what the September 250 at New Hampshire brings for the mods. But World of Outlaws Dirt, you've created quite the jewel in the Knoxville Nationals. Fantastic. And I hope someday in my lifetime, I'd love to see the modifieds come back and have those sparkly, shiny, can't miss shows. A little bit of rumors that we heard about this week I want to weigh in on. Will Tony Stewart drive in the Indianapolis 500 in 2019? He said before that a few years ago, that he would not be returning to IndyCar or Indianapolis. But in recent comments, he left the door open that he might do it. I think when he was getting ready to announce his retirement from full-time cup driving, one of the natural questions was, will you try the Indy 500? He was quick to say, no, he will not. Well, recently he said that he would think about it. He would possibly come back. Not necessarily he will, but he wants to be in something that he could win and wants to do a warm-up race first. He's realistic to know you can't just show up at Indianapolis and think you're going to beat these guys that are there week in and week out. He's absolutely right. Could he do it? Absolutely. Would I love to see it? Absolutely. We'll see. Rumor is Chip Ganassi. Rumor is Andretti Autosport, Team Penske. Well, those are your big three in IndyCar anyway. I don't know if he wants to, Schmidt-Peterson's pretty strong too. There's a few other, there's some, Ed Carpenter could put up a good car. But Tony wants to go there to win, not to just go be a part of that race, which is how he'd want to be in any race ever, is that he wants to go win. If he doesn't have a shot to win the thing, he doesn't want it. But he said no before, that he wouldn't come back to the Indy 500. Is the door open? Boy, I don't know. With Danica's return to Indianapolis this past May, that's already my sidebar getting ready to write for Tony Stewart next May for the Indy 500. If it happens, we'll see. But I'm going to keep an eye on smoke signals on this one. And rumors circulate about Kurt Busch. Will he leave Stewart-Haas Racing? It was rumored he would go to Chip Ganassi Racing. Why would you leave a team that is running extremely well and competitive for a team that you are beating week in and week out? I don't know. Scott Dixon recently signed with Chip Ganassi for an extension on his contract at the IndyCar side. SD rhymes with KB? I don't know. I'm reaching at straws here. Could they have heard something wrong? SDKB is the who will sign for Chip Ganassi? I don't know. But, where would you go? Kyle Larson's, I don't think, is going anywhere. He's not running well lately, but he's pretty much the lead driver, if you would so to speak, at Chip Ganassi Racing. And Jamie McMurray has largely been under the radar all year. If Busch was going to go anywhere, it would be with the one car, but I don't see him hopping in the one car and suddenly that outrunning whoever his replacement is at Stewart-Haas Racing. Eric Almirola hopped in the 10 car that Danica Patrick had, and Almirola is legitimately a shot to win a race before the year is out. Not saying he will, but could he? Absolutely. The driver before Almirola, I would say no. Don't really have a shot to win a race. And in closing tonight, I want to remember Donnie Large Sr., a super modified driver at California's Madera Speedway. He died following a crash Saturday night at the California Oval. From Speed Sport News, I got some information. Large was leading the 360 modified feature at Madera. Something went wrong. He bounced off the second turn wall, came back across the track, was struck by another car. He continued towards the inside barrier wall. His throttle stuck open on impact and caused the rear wheels to spin a lot, a big cloud of smoke, and the safety crew finally got the engine shut off. He was taken from the car to a local hospital. He was pronounced dead. Family members believe he possibly suffered some medical emergency prior to the crash. And Donnie Large Jr., Large's son, took the lead from his father at that point and went on to win Saturday's race. So our prayers and thoughts go out to the Large family after the crash Saturday in California. In between our broadcasts, keep up on the world of auto racing with SpeedwayReport.com. This show and all of our past ones are uploaded on the site. We also have racing articles to read. So you can upload this broadcast as well as all of the history. You can go to Facebook, and we're on the Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds page, the Racers Reunion Facebook page. On Twitter, we're at Speedway Pat and at Speedway Report. Go to racersreunion.com. We are in the forum, and as I said, speedwayreport.com. And if you are connected with me on Google+, LinkedIn, Facebook, and our YouTube channel, we're there as well. Thanks to everyone on the Facebook live feed for joining the conversation during the show tonight. Please go see a race at a track near you. They are the backbone of the sport. This Saturday night, the final Saturday night of Bowman Gray Stadium season. 150 laps for the mods. I'm looking forward to it. I want to thank all of the military past and present for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, take care of yourselves and come home soon. A special salute to the teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless, and thank you. You have been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and follow me on Twitter at Speedway Pat. Now, on Facebook, head on over now to the Drag Racing List page. Racing and Rockin' with Draglist.com is coming right up. BP, JB, and BS will have some drag racing news as well as some cool music. So on Facebook, head to the Drag Racing List page. We will be back here live on Facebook next week, Monday, August the 20th. We will look at NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, trucks, and modifieds at Bristol, IndyCars at Pocono, short tracks, and a whole lot more. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'll see you next time.